Lovely viewers, today's story is one that will melt your heart, leave you smiling, and maybe even bring a tear to your eyes. As always, we're diving deep into the fairy tale world of Lee Min-ho and Hye Kyo, two of Korea's most beloved stars whose love story feels straight out of a K-drama. But this time, it's not just about romance. It's about a wedding day surprise that nobody saw coming, not even Hye Kyo herself. So, grab a cozy seat, because what Lee Min-ho did on their wedding day will truly leave you speechless. The days leading up to the wedding were already magical. Fans from all over the world had been holding their breath ever since Lee Min-ho announced the big day. Every news outlet was talking about the venue, the guest list, and what designer Hye Kyo would wear. But what no one knew was that Lee Min-ho had been secretly planning something far beyond anyone's imagination, a gesture of love that went deeper than words or diamonds could ever express. From the start, Lee Min-ho wanted the wedding to be about more than just glamour and celebrity. He wanted it to tell their story, how two people, both scarred by love in the past, found healing and new beginnings in each other. For weeks, he worked quietly with a small team, making sure not even Hye Kyo caught a hint of his plan. Even his close friends said he was unusually quiet, spending late nights in his study, sketching and making calls, all while pretending everything was just business as usual. Then came the wedding morning. The atmosphere was filled with excitement, camera flashes, and that special buzz only a Korean star-studded event could create. Hye Kyo, in her breathtaking gown, looked like an angel walking straight out of a romantic film. Her smile was pure, but little did she know, the man waiting for her at the altar had one more surprise, one that would turn the entire ceremony into a moment the world would never forget. As the ceremony began, everything seemed to follow the traditional order. The guests were seated, soft instrumental music played, and Lee Min-ho looked calm, yet his eyes carried a spark that hinted at something extraordinary. When it was time for their vows, Hye Kyo went first. Her voice trembled with emotion as she spoke about how Lee Min-ho had brought warmth into her life, how his patience and laughter healed wounds she thought would never fade. The audience was already teary-eyed, but then it was Lee Min-ho's turn. He took her hands, looked deeply into her eyes, and instead of reading from his vow card, he said softly, "Before I met you, I never knew what real peace felt like. So today my gift to you is a piece of my heart made real." And suddenly the lights dimmed. The guests gasped as a large screen came to life behind them, revealing a short film that Lee Min-ho had secretly created over the past few months. The film wasn't a movie, it was their story. It began with clips from their first on-screen meetings, candid moments from interviews, behind-the-scenes laughter, and even never-before-seen footage of the couple during their private travels. Each scene was carefully selected and narrated by Lee Min-ho himself. His voice, soft and sincere, carried over the hall as he said, "I fell in love with your heart before I ever touched your hand. I loved the way you smiled through pain, and the way you taught me that love isn't about perfection. It's about presence." As the video continued, Hye Kyo's eyes filled with tears. She held her chest, visibly overwhelmed, while the guests watched in awe. But the real surprise hadn't even come yet. As the final scene played, the video faded into a live feed from outside the venue. Everyone turned to the doors as they opened, revealing a stunning garden filled with white roses, Hye Kyo's favorite flower. Lee Min-ho had secretly arranged for a private garden wedding within the main venue, transforming an ordinary courtyard into a fairy tale scene. And there, in the center of the garden, was a life-sized painting of Hye Kyo that Lee Min-ho had personally commissioned, a piece capturing her beauty, grace, and warmth. Below the painting were the words he had written himself, "To my forever, my muse, my home." Hye Kyo broke down in happy tears as Lee Min-ho led her through the garden. The air was filled with soft music from a live orchestra, and in that magical moment, it began to snow, just like in the dramas that first made them famous. It wasn't real snow, of course, but a gentle cascade of artificial snowflakes that Lee Min-ho had arranged to fall right as they exchanged their final vows under the open sky. But that wasn't all. When the music faded, Lee Min-ho turned to her and said, "There's one more thing." He handed her a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate bracelet engraved with the coordinates of the exact place where they first met. It wasn't a luxury brand or a massive diamond piece. It was simple, meaningful, and from his heart. The guests clapped and cheered, unable to hold back their emotions. Even veteran actors and friends of the couple were seen wiping their eyes. Hye Kyo hugged him tightly, whispering something only he could hear, but the cameras caught the pure joy on her face. It was the kind of happiness that can't be staged. It was genuine, raw love on display. After the ceremony, as they shared their first dance under the softly glowing lights, Lee Min-ho sang a song he had secretly recorded just for her. The lyrics were all about destiny, about two people who were meant to meet again no matter how far life took them. The song, titled Always You, was released hours later on streaming platforms, and fans around the world went wild. Within minutes, it shot to the top of the charts, proving that his love for her had touched not only her heart but millions of others as well. By the end of the night, Hye Kyo looked radiant, still clutching the bracelet as if afraid to let go. Reporters later revealed that she had no idea about any of the surprises. Everything had been planned and executed with such care that even her closest friends were stunned. One insider said, "Lee Min-ho didn't just give her a wedding. He gave her a story she'll tell their children one day." And honestly, lovely viewers, isn't that the kind of love story we all dream about? The kind that goes beyond fame, beyond luxury, and straight into the heart. Lee Min-ho's wedding surprise wasn't about showing off. It was about showing love. The kind of love that listens, remembers, and cherishes. As fans continue to gush over every photo and clip from the wedding, one thing is clear. Lee Min-ho has raised the bar for romance. And for Hye Kyo, this wedding wasn't just a ceremony. It was the beginning of a new chapter filled with laughter, passion, and the promise of forever. Social media platforms were flooded with clips, photos, and emotional reactions from fans who couldn't get enough of what had just unfolded between Lee Min-ho and Hye Kyo. But what many didn't know was that the surprises weren't over yet. Because even after the cameras stopped rolling and most of the guests thought the evening had ended, Lee Min-ho had planned one final moment, something deeply personal that would truly define what this love story meant to him. After their first dance, when the guests began to mingle and the lights softened, Lee Min-ho quietly took Hye Kyo by the hand and led her away from the crowd. They walked through the beautifully lit garden, past the painting he had given her, and into a small glass pavilion surrounded by candles and delicate flowers. The space was quiet, glowing softly under the moonlight. Inside, a simple piano sat waiting. Hye Kyo looked at him curiously, and Lee Min-ho smiled, saying, "This is where I tell you what words can't." He sat at the piano and began to play a melody he had written himself. It wasn't perfect, but it was pure and full of emotion. The tune carried through the still air, and every note seemed to tell a piece of their journey. How they found each other, how they learned to love again, and how they promised to never let go. As he played, Hye Kyo stood there, eyes glistening, realizing just how much this moment meant. It wasn't about fame, not about cameras, not about the world watching. It was just them, two souls who had finally found home in each other. When the final note lingered in the air, Lee Min-ho looked up and said softly, "This is our beginning, Hye Kyo. From today, everything we build, every laugh, every tear, it will be ours." Hye Kyo couldn't hold back her emotions any longer. She knelt beside him, her hand trembling as she touched his cheek, whispering, "You've given me the kind of love I thought only existed in stories." Their private moment, though unseen by the guests, later became known when one of the staff members shared how Lee Min-ho had spent weeks composing that piece for her. He had even told his music producer that he wanted something that feels like a heartbeat finding its rhythm again. That's exactly what it was. Intimate, raw, and unforgettable. Outside, the guests began to gather again for the after-party, but when the newlyweds returned, everyone could see that something had changed. They looked more connected, more at peace. Hye Kyo's makeup had slightly smudged from tears, but she looked even more beautiful, glowing from the inside out. Lee Min-ho's hand never left hers, and the way he looked at her, like she was the only person in the world, left everyone speechless. As the night went on, friends and co-stars shared heartfelt toasts. Park Shin-hye raised her glass and said, "We've seen Min-ho work through long nights, challenging roles and endless fame. But tonight we see him at his most genuine." Kim Woo-bin, who had been one of the groomsmen, added with a grin, "He's been talking about this woman for years. Now that he's finally got her, don't expect to see him on set for a while." Everyone laughed, and even Song Hye Kyo playfully nudged her husband, who smiled shyly. But the laughter quickly turned into awe when fireworks suddenly illuminated the sky. They weren't the usual colorful explosions. They were shaped like stars, hearts, and even displayed the initials M and K intertwined. Song Hye Kyo gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, while Lee Min-ho wrapped an arm around her shoulders and whispered, "I wanted the whole sky to know your name." The fireworks lit up the night for nearly 10 minutes, painting the sky with light and color. It was a breathtaking finale that perfectly mirrored their love story. Grand, yet filled with sincerity. Even fans miles away who were watching the live stream felt the emotion of that moment. One fan commented, "You can feel the love even through the screen," while another wrote, "This is not just a wedding, it's art, it's destiny." When the music started again, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo danced surrounded by their loved ones. There was laughter, there were tears, and above all there was joy. Every detail of the night, the decor, the songs, the surprises, seemed to whisper the same message. That love, when genuine, needs no spectacle. It just needs two hearts willing to believe again. Later in the evening, the couple took the microphone to thank everyone for being part of their day. Song Hye Kyo spoke first, her voice soft but steady. "I used to think that some stories aren't meant to be rewritten," she said. "But standing here today, I realize that love has a way of bringing you back to where you truly belong. Thank you, Min-ho, for choosing me every single day." The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers echoing into the night. Lee Min-ho smiled at her lovingly and added, "You've made me a better man, and from today, I promise that no matter how far my journey takes me, it will always lead back to you." The sincerity in his words silenced the room for a moment before it filled with emotional clapping and cheers once again. As the night drew to a close, the couple slipped away from the noise and went back to the garden where it all began. They sat by the fountain, watching the reflection of the moon ripple across the water. There was no need for words now. Everything that needed to be said was already written in their hearts. Lee Min-ho gently placed his jacket over Song Hye Kyo's shoulders and said, "Let's make this the first of many nights like this." She smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. The next morning, news outlets described it as the most romantic wedding in Korean entertainment history. Fans across the world shared clips, messages, and fan art celebrating the couple's union. One headline read, "Lee Min-ho didn't just marry Song Hye Kyo. He created a memory the world will never forget." Lovely viewers, isn't that the kind of love everyone dreams about? The kind that doesn't just make headlines but leaves an imprint on the soul. From the secret film to the hidden piano melody, from the fireworks to the tender moments under the moon, every detail of that night was a reminder that love, true, patient, and selfless, still exists in our world. And so, as we close this chapter of their story tonight, let's celebrate the beauty of two hearts that found their way to each other despite the odds. Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo have proven once again that love isn't about perfection. It's about presence, about showing up for each other in ways that words alone can't capture. Their wedding day wasn't just a ceremony. It was a promise sealed with music, emotion, and a kind of magic that will live on in the hearts of their fans forever. Lovely viewers, what part of this fairy tale moment touched your heart the most? Was it the piano melody, the heartfelt vows, or the fireworks painting their love across the sky? When the lights faded, when the guests finally departed, and the music grew soft in the background, the real essence of their love began to reveal itself in quiet whispers, shared laughter, and tender moments that no camera could ever fully capture. After their guests had gone, the couple returned to the now silent venue hand in hand. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of roses from the garden where they had exchanged their vows. Song Hye Kyo leaned against Lee Min-ho's shoulder, her voice gentle as she said, "It feels like a dream I don't want to wake up from." Lee Min-ho smiled and whispered, "Then let's never wake up." It was such a simple exchange, but in that moment, it carried the depth of everything they had been through, the heartbreaks, the healing, and the rediscovery of love that brought them here. They walked through the same path lined with flickering candles, the painting of Song Hye Kyo still illuminated softly under the moonlight. Lee Min-ho paused for a second, staring at it with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, "when I asked the artist to paint this, I told him not to just capture your face but your soul, the way your eyes soften when you're happy, the way you look at the world like it's full of poetry." Song Hye Kyo turned to him with tears forming in her eyes again, her heart melting at his sincerity. "You really see me," she whispered. They both laughed quietly, the kind of laughter that comes from peace and familiarity. For a moment, the world outside didn't exist. There were no reporters, no flashing cameras, no crowd, just the two of them surrounded by love and quiet. Lee Min-ho then led her to a small bridge over the pond in the garden. Hanging from the railing were dozens of small lanterns floating on the water below, each one glowing like a star. "What's this?" Song Hye Kyo asked with a curious smile. Lee Min-ho replied, "Each lantern represents a wish I made for us. I started lighting one every night since the day I knew I was going to marry you." Song Hye Kyo looked down at the soft reflections on the water, her heart swelling with emotion. "You did all this for me?" she asked. "For us," he corrected gently. "Because love isn't just about grand gestures. It's about remembering the little things that matter." As they stood together watching the lanterns float, a soft breeze swept through, carrying the faint sound of laughter from the distance, a reminder of the joy that had filled the night. Song Hye Kyo closed her eyes, took a deep breath and said, "I think this is the happiest I've ever been." Lee Min-ho smiled, kissed her forehead and replied, "It's just the beginning." The following morning, news outlets across Asia continued to explode with stories about their wedding, but the couple stayed completely offline. Instead, they spent their first morning as husband and wife enjoying a quiet breakfast on the balcony of their suite. The view overlooked the ocean, the golden sunrise bathing everything in a soft glow. Song Hye Kyo wore one of his shirts, her hair loose, her smile effortless. Lee Min-ho, still in his robe, watched her with quiet admiration. She noticed his gaze and laughed. "What?" she asked. He shrugged, pretending to be casual, but his voice gave him away. "I still can't believe you're real. I used to dream of moments like this." She reached out to touch his hand, squeezing it softly. "Well, this is real, Min-ho. This is our forever." As the day went on, they received countless messages from friends, fans, and industry colleagues congratulating them. Some sent heartfelt letters, while others posted emotional tributes online. But Lee Min-ho decided to keep one particular message secret until the right time. It was from Song Hye Kyo's mother, who had written, "Thank you for making my daughter smile again. I see the light in her eyes, and I know she is home with you." When he showed it to her later that day, Song Hye Kyo couldn't hold back her tears. She hugged him tightly, whispering, "You've given my family peace too." The following evening, Lee Min-ho had arranged one last surprise before they left for their honeymoon. He brought Song Hye Kyo to a private theater he had rented out, just the two of them inside. On the screen, a new video began to play, this time not of their past but of their future. It was a beautiful montage of imagined moments he had created with the help of an artist. A home by the sea, mornings with coffee and laughter, walks with their future children, and quiet nights growing old together. At the end of the video, a message appeared. "Our forever begins every day we wake up together." Tears rolled down Song Hye Kyo's cheeks as she looked at him, speechless.